Wait a second. Here we go. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to. Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys. Oh, one of you asked. Hello, welcome to Tom's Guitar Show. I'm Tom, and they call me Guitar Tom because I'm often seen with a guitar. And they call me on the phone. And they say, "Hey, man, what's your show about?" I say, "It's about an hour. It's about guitars, guitar playing, and all things guitaristic." You can't call me because once a month I do this show live from Uptown Bill's Coffee House. And oh, there's Bob. I hope he's got something to help out. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, I guess it's a show about guitars, guitar playing, all things guitaristic. You want to know something about? I mean, you can't call, but I usually answer questions about guitars and guitarrones, guitarras, sitars, lutes, vihuelas, banjos, balalaikas, bazookas, bajos, sextos, tifles, and cavaquinhos, bandurias, bandolims, mandolins, trombones, trombomarinas, xylophones, and zithers. I mean, all that stuff. It's a show about. Basically, it's a guitar show. Anyway, so I am up at Uptown Bill's, and this is one of those shows when I don't have a lot of guests or anything, and not a lot of publicity. There's not much going on here. It's going to be kind of quiet program. There's a meeting that's breaking up, or a couple of meetings that are breaking up, and breaking up. I always want to change that. Instead of breaking up is hard to do, waking up is hard to do. That's a song I can really get behind, especially when I used to have to work in the morning. Anyway, okay. So Anyway, so here I am. I was planning on a much simpler show. What I've done here is going to be my sort of patriotic show. I thought about doing this next Tuesday, which would be on the 5th of July. And by that time, everybody's going to have eaten their hot dogs and watched the fireworks, and they'll be done. They'll be moving on with their lives. So anyway, so what I'm doing this week, and this is something I'm going to fool around with, is I'm playing all American stuff. This guitar I'm playing now is a Fender American Special Telecaster. It's made in Corona, California. I have also an American Special Stratocaster, also made in Corona, California. I have a somewhat of a preference for my vintage blonde Tele, but that's kind of like a light yellow color, and this one's blue. I like this guitar. I like my yellow one more. But see, I've got a red Strat and a blue Telly, and they both have white pick guards. So I got the red, white, and blue going. This is my old Tom's Guitar Show mic from the old days. This is a Shure SH55, which is sort of a retro mic. I had to be careful about it though, because it was my Tom's Guitar Show mic for many years, and the little place where where you screw it into the mic stand has been stripped somewhat, and so I find if I put a little piece of cardboard in there, like like a matchbook cover thing, it'll hold it. But I think it didn't. I got to be careful because I was kind of a difficult trip from the car. Anyway, so as far as pedals are concerned, I have a Electro-Harmonix 360 looper that I'm using. It's made in New York City, and in case I have a little hum issue, I have the Electro-Harmonix hum debugger, also made in New York City. My amp, I just got today. In fact, there's some tags on it. I don't know if you can see that from where you are, but my amp here is a Fender Deluxe Reverb, but it's a special edition or limited edition model, which I ordered, and I went through a long odyssey to try to get it. I was hoping to play at Trek Fest on Saturday. By the way, I'm wearing my Trek Fest shirt. But I got it this afternoon. I drove up there, and various car wrecks and things slowing down the traffic coming here. So I was going to do a simpler show, as I say, with just a electric nylon string guitar. I was going to play like a bunch of flamenco rumba. But I was told, well, my wife does most of the thinking in the house, that July 5th, next Tom's Guitar Show would not be, the best time to do it, and because everybody would be tired of the 4th of July by then. So now we're ramping up to the 4th of July. So I've got an American, USA-made Fender amp. This mic stand, my old red mic stand, is made in the U.S. My microphone's made in the U.S. The two guitars I brought are made in the U.S. And even the cables that I'm using to plug them into things are made in the U.S. The pedals are American, and so now you can accuse me of being jingoistic, and you could do that, but I'm not sure I know what that means. So you could say I'm racist because I want American stuff, but then I would remind you that I've seen the videos of the Corona, California Fender plant, and the people I've seen actually doing the work, the buffers and things like that, look like Mexicans to me. So, got nothing against the people who work there. A lot of people who live in Southern California are, from the area, not necessarily European looking or something. And as far as Electro-Harmonix stuff, I did see a video of them putting things together at these long tables with solder irons, and the people I looked at in New York City, they looked like East Asians. So, so that's not it. It's just I actually have a certain preference for American gear. I prefer to play American guitars through American amps. Did I get in trouble for saying all that? What do you think, Bob? Is that...
Not unless there was a commercial on the broadcast stations.
Okay, yeah, because nobody's watching anyway, right? So I can say whatever I want.
Between the commercials, we can say anything.
Yeah, okay. I actually ran into a guy, I think it was yesterday, parking lot of West Music. I hang around, guitar shops, but he says he tries never to miss a Tom's Guitar Show. So, and I know people do watch it. But usually people have a Guitar Jones. So. Anyway. Deluxe Reverb. It's a dream come true. Yeah, well, I've been going through this phase, you know. I'm always going through some sort of phase, but aren't we all, right? It's difficult, that thing between birth and death, we call life, you know. But less than a year ago, I acquired a Fender Twin Reverb, which is a monstrously huge amp as far as I'm concerned. It has two 12-inch speakers in it, 65 watts of tube power. This one has 22, and it's turned down real low. I have a Princeton, which is 13 watts, and it's plenty loud, I think. And then I have, but anyway, so I also acquired a Blues Junior, and of course I got this one. And not that long ago, really a couple of years ago, I guess, I got my Princeton. So as far as Fender amps, should I go from high to low, or? Well, I'll go for the big one, okay? So I have the Fender Twin Reverb, the 65 reissue. Big honking thing, very heavy, I noticed. When putting it in the trunk, it's very heavy. And it's also too loud for anything I normally play, but I'm hoping someday to plug it in someplace. I don't know where or when.
When you play Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, I suppose, well, if I'm at Madison Square Garden, it won't be big enough. It'll have to be mic'd through the PA. But basically, some stinking bar probably, well, they probably don't smell as bad as they did. People don't smoke anymore, not around here. Anyway, so okay, I have the Fender Twin Reverb, the 65 reissue. Got it used. Good deal. What are you on again? Sorry. Okay, that's the biggest one. Now I have the Deluxe Reverb, which is 22 watts, and I think it's got a 12-inch speaker in it. And I just got it this afternoon. I didn't even plug it in at home. I didn't even plug it in at home. I just, put it back in the car and came here. And then, so I have this one. I have the Princeton Reverb, which is 13 watts. I think a 10-inch speaker. It's very similar to this one, but smaller, doesn't have as many features. It has its own charms, but I'll say that it doesn't, I have a feeling this one's going to sound better with certain guitars, and the Princeton's going to sound really good with certain guitars. Princeton actually does a pretty good job of this one kind of jazz sound that I like. Anyway, so I have that one. Next in line, I have the Blues Junior, which I got not that long ago used, a really good deal, which is like it's 15 watts, but it has a small speaker. It's a smaller, amp. It's really designed to be distorted, but if I turn the gain way down, I can get a clean sound out of it. And it's pretty nice. I almost thought about selling it, but because I'm running out of room. Okay. And then, so that's four really nice Fender tube amps. Twin Reverb, Deluxe Reverb, Princeton Reverb, and then the Blues Junior, which also has reverb on it. I like reverb. Anyway, and then I have an old Frontman 25, which is like made in Mexico. I don't know how old it is. I'm assuming it's at least 20 years old, and I've almost never used it, but it's actually kind of an interesting mic. I mean, it's an interesting amp. I've used it on Tom's Guitar Show before. I did a show when I played my Mexican Stratocasters through a Mexican Fender amp, and a good time was had by all. Well, Bob was there. I was there. Anyway, okay, so I have that one, and then if you get down to smaller, I have a what they call a Mustang Mini, which is a small solid-state amp. By the way, the Frontman 25 is also solid state. Doesn't have tubes, but transistors. It's tubes. I'm sorry. It's an interesting little amp. I have trouble. I don't like the modeling. I got rid of all my other amps except for one little Vox battery-powered amp. But the thing, and then there's a little Fender Mustang Mini. The things about the Mustang Mini is it runs on C cells, which seem to be more expensive than other batteries and hard to get. But I think it runs on at least 4 C cells, or is it 6? I don't know. And I've actually played these little outdoor gigs where I have that one, and then the Roland Microcube, which is a similar thing, slightly smaller, runs on AA batteries. But it's kind of interesting, and also, I mean, it sounds decent for a little thing, and sometimes also it's good to plug your headphones into. It has all these different effects and all the different amp models, which sound kind of like a real amp, but not really. You know how you go to a salad bar, and they have the Bacos you can put on your salad? They're some sort of soybean-based brown, crunchy things that are reminiscent slightly of bacon bits, but ain't nothing like the real thing, baby.
Salty taste reminds you of bacon.
Yeah, the saltiness of them, yeah. And there's some bacon-esque sort of flavor in there, sort of, but the salt is mostly, okay. Anyway, so I have that one, and then to finish off my little Fender guitar amp collection, I have a little tiny one. I forget what it's called, but it's the tweed colored. costs like $35 or something, and it runs on a 9-volt battery. And you can plug into it. Fits in my briefcase, my little satchel that I take up to Co. Unfortunately, it's really hard to make it sound even halfway decent. I mean, even like not terrible. It's really basically just designed to have like an ugly distortion. Yep, I think I might still be on the same battery. It's been a long time on that battery. I don't use it very often, but one thing it does though is it has a pretty good headphone. I mean, jack. If you plug in the headphones, it's not too bad. So there have been times when I'm trying not to make any noise that I plug in some sort of a pedal, like a reverb pedal, make me sound good, into that, with everything running on batteries, and then I can play guitar very quietly. Because electric guitar without the amp is very quiet. So anyway, yeah, I have all those Fender amps, plus a little bass amp. But anyway, you brought a little contribution, have you? Okay, well, soon we'll have Bob up here to do his words of inspiration, but. Let's see what this little telly will do. I was bad-mouthing this guitar, saying I like the yellow one better, the vintage blonde. But this is actually a pretty sweet guitar. I've sold a lot of guitars to buy other guitars, but this one I was looking at it, like one of those things you got it's one guy had a flock of geese, and his little hobby farm, because he got the eggs and his daughter, they hatched all little baby goslings and everything like that. And then but geese are pretty obnoxious, they're mean, and so you'd be sitting around there thinking, what are we going to have for Thanksgiving, or Christmas or something? Look around, and there's the most obnoxious goose, and what can I say? There was one that was kind of like slow, kind of like mellow and kind of, not a highly intelligent goose, and that's the one that lived the longest. I think it died of old age, but the most obnoxious ones. Never mind. Yeah, they got their goose cooked. Yeah. Anyway, so this guitar is. I thought about selling this one because it's not my favorite, but I don't know. Do you have favorites? I don't know. You go right ahead, man. I don't. Better Telecaster. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I just want to say, if there's anybody out there who wants something to do on a Tuesday, you could come down here. Uptown Bill's. It's on the corner of South Duke and Lafayette, down by the tracks, not far from Iowa City. Here comes somebody now. Yes, Mr. Skopinski. Hey, did you bring a contribution to this show at all, or? I did. Yeah. Oh, good, good. Well, I think we have Bob first. I don't know if Bob wants to use this mic or that mic. Is that mic ready to go, or is it? Okay, we better make some faint repetitions on that one.
Let's see.
Yeah, he's gonna have to. Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me now? I don't think so.
Yeah, he's gonna turn it up a little bit.
Hello, hello, hello. There I am.
Yeah. Okay.
I too thought it would be a good time to talk a little bit about the 4th of July. And I should have came prepared for a couple of in memoriams. Your Star Trek shirt made me think of that.
Yeah.
The guy who plays Chekhov in the current series of movies was killed by his car this week.
Yeah, Jeep rolled over on him or something. Yeah.
Yeah, some late model Chrysler cars have an electric shifter that isn't necessarily in the gear you think it's in.
I see. I have a
And
manual.
The banjo picker from the Clinch Mountain Boys, you probably know his name.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know. He's old. Was an old man.
Yeah, he's like 90.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
He was playing banjo before anybody named bluegrass music.
Right. Yeah.
And he didn't understand or like the term. He just called it hillbilly music.
Right. Yeah. I was watching a whole bunch of videos of him.
Of course, he wasn't from Kentucky. He was from the Appalachians. So.
Right. Right. It's mountain music. Yeah. He was singing. What's his name? I'll think about it. Yeah, that guy. Yeah. I know. I guess I was watching a bunch of videos of him and his performances over the years, when he was relatively young and then he was very old and everything.
Yeah.
He had a long career.
Yep.
He was still doing it.
Yeah, he was still doing it up till just recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go. Let's hope for us all.
Anyway, back to the subject at hand. There are no knock-knock jokes about America, because freedom rings.
Ah.
If a redneck bursts into flames, is he a firecracker?
Ah. Yeah.
You know what the Statue of Liberty stands for? It can't sit down.
Uh-huh. Ah, yeah. Can't stand. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
The difference between a duck and George Washington. Duck has a bill on its face. Washington has his face on a bill.
Oh, yeah.
Independence Day isn't about fireworks and picnics, but that's the fun part.
Mm-hmm.
An English noble told King George, "The colonists are revolting." King George said, "You can say that again."
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I went to a 4th of July picnic last year. The hamburgers and hot dogs were good, but the brats were worst.
Ah, first. Ah.
Would an American rebel who draws cartoons be a Yankee doodler?
Yeah, yeah. Oh boy, that's pretty good, yeah.
The teacher said, when I was in your age, everyone in my class could name all the states. And Tommy said, big deal, there were only 13.
That's right, yeah.
For those who are familiar with Parson Weems' fable, or those who aren't, I'll repeat it. A couple of country boys were playing around out in the backyard and knocked over the outhouse. They stayed out of sight till it got dark out, and then they came in. Their dad says, "Did you boys knock over the outhouse today?" And they denied it. And he said, "Well, let me tell you a story about George Washington. George Washington got his new hatchet for his birthday before it was even a holiday. And he went out and cut down his dad's favorite young cherry tree. And his dad saw the tree, and he asked George Washington, 'Did you cut down that tree?' And George said, I cannot tell a lie, Father. I did it. And the father said, because you're honest, I won't punish you. So the boys told their dad, okay, we won't lie to you. We knocked over the outhouse. And Dad says, you're going to get a whooping now. And the boys say, but we told the truth like George Washington. And Dad says, George Washington's dad wasn't in the cherry tree.
Ah! Oh! Ah! Ah! Okay, I can leave it there. That's good. All right, yes, okay. That's very good. Yeah. Never mind. It brings a plethora of jokes and observations, but this is Tom's Guitar Show, so we keep it. Anyway, yeah. So if you're just tuning in, or for instance, if you have been flipping back and forth in the channels, this is my I wouldn't call it my patriotic. This is my 4th of July special. So everything I'm playing with, including the little cable that connects my Electro-Harmonix humdebugger made in New York City with my Electro-Harmonix 360 looper, also made in New York City. The cable between them advertises it's from the Fender Custom Shop in Corona, California. The cable. So my cables, my microphones, this old red mic stand, and my amp, and the 2 guitars are all made in the U.S. And I prefer to play through American-made stuff when I can. There's some really nice Chinese stuff, and of course, and there have been a couple of factories in Korea. I've been researching this some, and I don't know if everything I hear is true. And well, I know that everything I hear isn't true, so I don't know what's the truth. But the story that I've gotten over the years, seems to be pretty well. Anyway, in Korea, they've been building guitars for a long time. Many years ago, I was at a party, and one that somebody invited me to, but I didn't know anybody else there. The person who invited me to it disappeared, and I was. It seems to be kind of. I don't know if they do that anymore. People pass around guitars, and I was playing this guitar, and I kind of resented it because it was made in Korea a long time ago, and it was a copy of a Martin guitar, and it looked, it was made to look as much as possible like a Martin guitar, yet it was made in Korea, and it was just made out of inferior materials, didn't sound very good. And I think I expressed how I didn't like these sort of counterfeit things that was made to look like something of high value. And I prefer, if you're going to make a cheap guitar, make it look, like an honest cheap guitar. Somebody gave me a hard time accusing me of racism. And I said, guitar itself doesn't have a race. It's just a way, business practice in manufacturing and so forth. But over the years, the Korean, like the quart factories, famous. There are two factories in Korea. One was a quart factory, and they turned out some really good stuff. I have 2 Diarman guitars made in Korea that were, they were Guild. They're absolute copies of Guild. And the story I heard for them was that Guild was bought by Fender, and Fender, I think, was under other ownership in those days, but they bought it and then just closed it down, keeping the Guild name. Now, Guild's been around since the early 50s. It's wonderful instruments, and they're sort of making a comeback. But anyway, so these were actually made of the same materials, the same Diarman pickups off the shelf. And Diarman's another company that made pickups, very high quality pickups. But what Diarman, whatever or Fender, whatever was like behind this, shipped the equipment they used to make these guitars from Elizabeth, New Jersey to Korea, and they sent some employees from Guild to go or former employees to go and train the Koreans to make their guitars. So the Starfire, the German Starfire that I had it, and I also briefly had a Guild Starfire. And the only difference was that the Guild Starfire had a fried out pickup, and I sent it back. And it was black and shiny. I almost got it. It was substantially more expensive. I think the suggested retail of the Diarman was something like $1,250 or something, and it was available for $650 or something, I think. And the Guild was like almost twice that much. And it was becoming a rarity because it was one of the last ones of that production. So anyway, it was like the same guitar. It's just that the Diarman was red instead of black because I had too many black guitars. Much cheaper, and and it didn't have the fried pickup, but the workmanship was identical. So, but since then, the quart factory I've heard closed down because the employees were demanding to be treated better because they were being paid very little. They had been building guitars there very well with a pride of workmanship for like about 3 generations, and but they weren't getting paid very well, and so I think they moved operations to China, and then of course Indonesia is a big country for making guitars now, and and I've got nothing against the people who build these guitars and so forth. The only thing is that they're being paid very little, and they were probably living a completely different lifestyle earlier in their lives, similar to the lifestyle their ancestors had lived, in villages or whatever, in the countryside for many, many generations before that. And then they, like in Indonesia, they clear cut the forests and they, herd everybody into the cities, and they put them to work in the factories. And whether you're just looking for a job, and whatever you're going to build, home theater components, or you're going to build this or that, you're going to build guitars. In Korea, I think they had a tradition of it. They've been doing it for several generations, and they built some wonderful stuff, and they still are building nice guitars in Korea, just not on the scale they were maybe 10 years ago. So, now the Mexican Fenders, which I natter on about, the statistic is that at least a third of the people who work in the Mexican Fender factory in Baja are guitar players themselves. And Mexico has had a long tradition of building guitars, like in Paracho, it's a real guitar playing town, guitar building town. They build lots of guitars there. They build other sorts of instruments for Latin America, other things we don't really play around here, like cuatros and cavaquinhos and things that we don't necessarily play that much in the U.S. But anyway, the Baja California factory, some of the same people, as I say, work in the Corona, California. Baja is down the coast. Same people, somewhat. You can drive a truck, easily from one to the other. And as I say, when I looked at the Fender, some videos of the Fender factory, the people I saw working, like the guy buffing these guitars on a big wheel, he looked like a Mexican. He looked, maybe he's a Honduran, but he looked Mexican to me. And there's a woman who was doing some fine inlay work, and she appeared to be Mexican also. I think a lot of the same people work in both factories, back and forth. So, I'm not sure about these borders anyway, really, to tell you the truth. I don't want to. Trump, build the wall? Huh? Build the wall? I don't know. Right, sorry. Actually, the people, some people from Mexico have become expert tunnel makers, apparently, for smuggling things into the country. So. And drone flyers. There's submarines from farther south that they make, smuggle things in the country. But all right, I'm sorry. Am I nattering on? Shall I? I'm grooving. I want to give Mr. Skopinski a chance to present us with something. And I don't know about young Tom. You have something for us? Let me play something briefly, and then let's maybe Mr. Skopinski could read something. Perhaps I could play my red Strat. You can read something, and next thing you know, the show will be over, right? Anyway, I brought my blue Telecaster because it's blue and white, and then I have a red and white one, so it's got red, white, and blue. So, anyway, Mr. Skopinski, would you like to come up and share with us? I'm going to switch guitars while you're doing that.
I have a few brief things for us, some poetry, and I guess I'm not as progressive as you and Bob are because I'm still holding on to June. These have to do with June. You guys are. This is the 4th of July show, and I'm glad I picked.
It's still June.
It is still June, and I'm glad I serendipitously picked my flag blue T-shirt to wear. So at least I'm in the spirit that way. But yeah, we're still after today. We still have 2 more days of June. And I've got 3 fairly brief poems that have to do with June and this time of year. And the last time we didn't have a chance to get to some poetry that I had brought, but one of the themes that I had last time was about the flower of the lilac, which blossoms nicely in May. And it's a beautiful flower, and the scent of it is very nice. I don't know my horticulture that much, but another lovely flower that is similar in color to a lilac is the wisteria, if I'm not mistaken. And it must be a June bloomer because this one brief poem by a poet named Anne McGow mentions both wisteria and June in the same poem. And it's called, the title of the poem is called Summons. Wisteria woke me this morning, and there was all June in the garden. I felt them early, warning lest I miss any part of the day. Straight I walked to the trellis vine, wisteria touched a lifted nostril, feelings of beauty diffused to entwine my spirit with June's own aura. So celebrating another lilac-colored flower. And then these other 2, this time of year, we see so much daylight. As a night shift worker, I see that it's light out at 5:15 in the morning, and it's that time of year. So this one is called June Nights by Victor Marie Hugo, and I'm assuming that's the Victor Hugo. I don't know his middle name, but anyway, this one goes... In summer, when day has fled, the plain covered with flowers pours out far away an intoxicating scent. Eyes shut, ears half open to noises, we only half sleep in a transparent slumber. The stars are pure, the shade seems pleasanter, a hazy half-day colors the eternal dome, and the sweet pale dawn, awaiting her hour, seems to wander all night at the bottom of the sky. So he's talking about a part of the world where you almost get no nighttime this time of year. And then finally, this is one that caught my eye because I can relate very much to it. It's by Robert Louis Stevenson, and I'm assuming this is from his Child's Garden of Verses because it's in the voice of a child. And it's called Bed in Summer. And this one goes, In winter I get up at night and dress by yellow candlelight. In summer, quite the other way. I have to go to bed by day. I have to go to bed and see the birds still hopping on the tree, or hear the grown-ups people's feet still going past me in the street. And does it not seem hard to you when all the sky is clear and blue, and I should like so much to play, to have to go to bed by day? And when I was a very young kid, I had a very strict bedtime, and this time of year, I would have been going to bed when it was still daylight out, and I can remember laying in bed and hearing kids play out, and so I can very much relate to this kind of thing. So that's my homage to June and wisteria, and we don't want to get political here, but you mentioned the wall, and when I was down in the Rio Grande Valley, a thing that a lot of people, or at least some people, seem to forget. I was at a shopping mall in McAllen, which is in Texas, in the United States, and I noticed that about 50% of the cars parked in the parking lot had license plates for Mexico. Mm-hmm. And what we forget is it's not just about immigrants coming here and looking for work. There are also middle-class Mexicans that come over here and spend their money. Right. And I don't think people in the Rio Grande, people on the American side, the Texas side, don't want to see a big wall being built there. They profit from the back and forth trade across the Rio Grande. So we have to keep that in mind too.
I think there's some confusion about it in some ways. And one way is that the Trump, and I'm not a Trump fan. Harrison Ford was holding up a sign, saying nobody for president in 2016. This is his opinion, but anyway, a lot of people feel that way. Most people feel that way. But I don't think Trump is, is halting legal immigration or visiting or something like that. He's just trying to get the illegals off. The idea of building a huge wall and having the Mexicans pay for it is kind of an interesting idea. I don't think it's ever going to happen, even if he does become president. But there's some people say, well, they're going to send all the Mexicans back. Well, the ones who are, American citizens or here legally, they can't because it's a constitutional thing. So there is a certain hysteria, but at the same time, there's a complicated issue, and building a wall seems kind of silly. The other thing is, though, that the Mexicans, I've heard that they're very particular about their southern border, because one thing, they don't want Salvadorans and Hondurans coming into Mexico, but they're much more hardcore about it than we are.
We live in a very complex world, and
Yeah.
so that's why it's frustrating to hear all these very simplistic arguments being thrown around when the world needs
Right.
much more nuanced thinking than
Yeah,
what's going
all
on.
this stuff is complicated. And the Brexit, for instance, is complicated. All this
It
stuff
is,
is quite
yeah.
complicated, and there are all these sorts of things. And there are a lot of people who are not telling you the truth about things. They're making stuff up. Some of them don't know any better. Some of them are repeating things that are put out there by propagandists and people who are dishonest for a living. Of course, a lot of people don't know what's going on, or they get things wrong. And I know that I don't know how everything really is. It's kind of an uncomfortable feeling in some ways, but you get used to it. It's like I certainly don't know about the Brexit or whatever, or what the immigration policy should be. It's not up to me. I don't have anything against people who are born in other countries in my midst. I'm so accustomed to them. I have so many friends. I've gone on dates with the people. Anyway, I've been in other countries where I'm a foreigner and everything like it's fine. But there's all this complicated, nuanced stuff, and then there's of course a lot of disinformation. I'm trying to find out more about, say, like Fender guitars, and the stuff that I encounter and deal with on a daily basis. Is this is it American? What does it mean to be American? So, like, I thought I lost my bass amp, but I got it back, my little bass amp. So I was looking at one that's assembled in the U.S., but the components are probably made in China or someplace. So,
I don't know if anybody makes tubes in the US anymore.
yeah, they make tubes in the Czech Republic, I think, and they still make them there, and Russia. So,
Well,
yeah.
I'm going to look for young Tom, because get him on the air before
Yeah.
things go. So.
Before it's too late, I was going to play this guitar too. Wow. Try this. American strats have 22 frets. I said that thing about the 22 frets because a Mexican fender only has 21 frets, so it's a D. Okay? That note does not exist as such on the. It's a D. Okay? Anyway, never mind. Young Tom, are you? Or should I call you something else? I don't know. I mean, I've always just, our host, Tom. I was once in a situation where there were a lot of Toms. I was actually Tom too, in that situation. We have to differentiate ourselves, 'cause-
I guess that's what I would be, Tom, too.
well, I don't know.
You're already here.
That's right. I've been here longer than you have. I'm about downstairs, but of course I'm in your terrain now. I'm in your domain.
Well, in any case, welcome.
Thank
It's
you.
always nice to have you
Well, glad to be here.
for the show each month.
Mhm.
We have a small but sturdy band here tonight.
Yes, well,
Quality counts for something.
I suppose.
We'll have to talk about how to encourage a studio audience.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to do the, like give away potato chips and something like that, like the early children's shows.
Did they give away potato chips in those days?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, little snacks and things. You're talking about your all-American,
Peanut gallery.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you're talking about the all-American show, I think the strangest fireworks display I ever attended was one where we drove to a shopping center parking lot, and then as the good ones came up, you'd honk.
Mhm.
I don't know if the fireworks people doing this heard you or not, but that was an
Probably
odd.
didn't hear anything anymore at all.
Yeah.
Just have a in their ears, but
That was an odd
well, in
thing.
the old days, I mean, they didn't do that.
Well, since it's not today, but it has been very hot, and so we were passing around.
How
some,
hot is? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it. We were passing around some of our favorite jokes about how hot it was. Bob Britt, for example, goes shopping for us each week, maybe once or twice. And one day last week, he went to the grocery store for a loaf of bread, and by the time he came back, it was toast.
Yes, right.
We noticed one day outside that our trees were walking around looking for shade. And then also the birds, they're out, looking for worms early in the morning. And there was one morning where they were using hot pads.
Yeah.
So may I tell you about a couple of upcoming things?
Sure. I was just thinking about that joke though, about the one Robin says the other. How can you eat those worms? They look like spaghetti. Never mind. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay. Sorry.
Well, or the cat who went outside and there were two birds there and ate them. Said, I just love those Baskin Robbins.
Ah, Baskin Robbins. Yeah. It was poultry in motion. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, we have lots of music here this week. And even for those of you who might be watching the show on Friday night, there's still music. But tomorrow night, which would be Wednesday, we have a singer-songwriter coming from Appalachia.
Really?
Sierra Jade is her name. And that's an early show, 6:30.
Sierra's the wrong mountain range. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
It's not my-
Maybe she's originally from California. We'll find out. That's one of the questions we have on our list.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
And on Thursday night, we have a songwriter from Chicago, Matthew Friends. That's at 7, along with our Uptown Bills Live. And then Saturday night, Bree Nettie, who's local, is coming, although not with a band. Most of the time she comes with a band. This is a solo show. So you're welcome at all of those. That's tomorrow night, 6:30, Thursday night, 7, and Saturday night at 7. And if you want to know more, you can pop into the coffee house or check our website, calendar, uptownbills.org. Two big things coming up. We've
Oh, boy,
got
okay.
big. Wait, there's more.
Oh, boy, okay.
One is we are one of the hosts of the annual celebration of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and I'll hold up the poster. This is the 26th year. And Wild Bills originally, and Uptown Bills and Wild Bills together have been part of it since the beginning, every year. And it's downtown on the Ped Mall on Saturday, July 23rd, which is the date closest to the day when the bill was signed, back in 1990. And there'll be music and dancing, and of course a few speeches as well. So Saturday, July 23rd, 10 a.m. to noon. That very same day, actually Uptown Bills has taken over the Ped Mall for the entire day
Okay.
on Saturday, July 23rd. That very same day, I think you know we've been working on a radio station. So we're having a concert to celebrate the radio station. We're not on the air yet, but we hope to be by fall. And that's on Saturday, July 23rd. Here's the wonderful poster for that. And that will be from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And Dave Zolo is the featured artist. Lots of other music, too. So that's it from me.
Okay.
I'll step back off the stage and let you do your farewell. Oh, wait, there's a question from the audience.
Just wanted to mention, I like the sentiment on your apron there. There's nothing,
Oh,
Yeah.
nothing nicer in life, or one of the great pleasures of life is coffee and a book. We have both of those right here.
thank you.
The audience member, who cannot be heard out there, was saying he liked the sentiment on his apron there.
Yes,
Coffee first, then read.
and we have both here at Uptown Bills. Many hundreds of books.
I don't know where I'd be without coffee and books.
You wouldn't be in a bookstore.
Ignorant and lazy, probably.
Okay,
Yeah, anyway, okay.
let me step aside. You've got 2 or 3 minutes. And
That was a chord I had a couple weeks ago. John, if you're downstairs, you're probably directing my show right now, aren't you? A couple weeks ago, we were saying this is a chord you just want it to resolve. E flat 7, flat 9. Don't you just long for an A minor chord? You didn't know how bad you wanted to hear A minor. Please.
I was thinking that's a song that goes with your Star Trek shirt.
Anyway, but this show's about over, so I'll say be back next week in the studio, Tom's Guitar Show. We're about one on every week, pretty much every week. About 50 shows a year. People say, get a life. Be back next week.